Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to bring this story to your attention. It's about a young boy who was 4 years old at the time, who was allowed to join a Church of England school as a girl. And the kids who befriended this little boy weren't aware that their friend was in fact male. Some people might think, what's the big deal? It's just socially transitioning. There's no hormones, there's no surgery or anything like that. The child's just 4. If he wants to dress up as a girl, what's the problem? But obviously when you enroll in a school, you are officially who you claim to be. The school is officially saying that you are male or you are female. This is your name, this is how old you are. This was an official enrollment into the school. And basically the school perpetuated a lie for 3 years, as well as the staff, as well as the parents of this child. So they deceived the children who were in this class and in the school for a whole 3 years. And the way they found out that their friend is in fact a boy was very traumatic. They're thinking that their friend is the same as them. Turns out their friend actually ended up having a willy. So the school didn't think about how this was going to affect the other kids, how this was going to affect the other girls, and the parents as well who were unaware. I mean, this kid would have been invited over to sleepovers, play dates, and at 7 years old, turns out this was a boy the whole time. Now you can imagine this would be difficult enough for an adult to comprehend. And the consequences of this are pretty horrific, if you ask me. So let's get into the story. A 4-year-old child was allowed to join a Church of England primary school as a girl, despite being biologically male. Parents at the school claimed their children were left traumatized when they found out, with the child's sex initially hidden from classmates. So of course, the school has made this decision without consulting other parents, without any thought to how this will confuse the other children. The 4-year-old, as far as I'm concerned, has already been set up to be confused, and they're okay with that. But now you're confusing the other children. You haven't consulted the other parents and they've just found out that this is actually a boy. One of the parents of a child who was friends with the pupil in question told the Telegraph that the school has robbed her daughter of her childhood. The parent claimed the teachers had lied to her about the pupil's biological sex. Now, again, I know how this is going to go. People are going to say, oh, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? That's their choice. That's the little boy wants to live as a girl. Oh, that's a bit dramatic. Rob your daughter of her childhood, really? Yes. This is introducing 4-year-olds to the cult of gender ideology. This is telling 4-year-olds that you can change your sex. When you're 4, you take people as you find them, right? A little girl is a little girl, a little boy is a little boy. Usually that's how it works. So now you're telling kids that, oh, actually, there's some kids who are born in the wrong body. That does affect one's innocence. It does affect one being just a kid and only having to worry about toys, colouring. That's the only thing they should be worrying about, not whether their friend is actually a boy when you thought this was a girl the whole time. A 4-year-old shouldn't have to worry about those sort of things. So yes, this parent is spot on. And I, for one, would be livid if this happened in my kid's school, especially when you send them to a school that is supposed to have Christian values. So over in the UK, the Department of Education did release some guidelines when it comes to policies related to gender, policies related to children who are gender confused. And the general consensus is that this is not a neutral decision. This is something that affects the whole class and eventually the whole school. So it's not something that, people can just take into their own hands and not think about how it's going to affect the greater community. And it is generally accepted that this sort of thing is unsuitable for primary school age children. So if that is what the Department of Education is saying, which is a good thing, why is this school deciding that it's okay to do this? To enroll a 4-year-old boy as a girl? And why Do they think it's acceptable to not consider how this is going to impact that little boy's class, that little boy's school as a greater community? Why did they not even think of that? It's as if no one else matters, no one else's feelings matter. How it affects other children doesn't matter. Because these parents have decided that they're not going to accept their boy for who he is, but they're going to say that he's a girl instead. At 4. No 4-year-old can even tell you what the word transitioning means. They certainly can't spell it, but yet you're supposed to tell me that a 4-year-old has convinced you that they're in the wrong body, or for some reason you as a parent have decided that your perfect little boy is not who he is, and you're going to tell him that he's a girl, and the school is going along with this. So Education Secretary Gillian Keegan and Kemi Badenoch, the Women and Equalities Minister, have promised to intervene after finding out about the case, because it is considered inappropriate for kids of this age. So this is a primary school in the southeast of England, allowed the pupil to join as a girl 3 years ago. The child, who joined as a 4-year-old, is now in year 3. Every new kid that comes into contact with this child is going to be introduced to gender ideology. That's the result of this. A parent told the newspaper that the pupil made friends with her daughter and other girls and was invited round for play dates. The mother claims the school told her not to reveal the child's biological sex to others. And the secrecy is very sinister as well. That is very sinister to me, for a school to engage in this level of deception is absolutely unacceptable and egregious. Now, they may say that they're respecting the child's privacy, the child's perhaps medical information, nothing against the child, but I think parents should be given the full story so that they can make a decision about how they want to approach this with their own children. Okay, and now we're getting to something that is very, very serious, because the mother explains how exactly this affected her daughter, finding out that her friend, who she thought was a little girl, was in fact a little boy. And then the mother explains that it affected her daughter. It changed her daughter's behavior when she found out. She said her daughter started behaving strangely, refusing to talk, didn't want to listen to the radio on the school run in the car, hiding under the table, showing signs of insomnia and constipation. That's not something that you can just imagine. Your little girl can't sleep. Your little girl is having stomach issues. Your little girl doesn't want to engage in doing the activities that she usually loves doing, hiding under the table. After repeatedly trying to quiz her daughter about what was wrong, she confessed that she knew the secret about her classmates' sex. The distraught mother was shocked to find out her daughter had been holding hands with a boy, claimed that the child had been flashing their willy at the girls. I'm sorry, but if your kid is gender confused, that child needs to be put in some sort of therapy. That child needs to be given help. That child certainly doesn't need to be socially transitioned at 4. Give them a chance, for goodness sake. Give them a chance to grow into who they are. That's it. And leave the other kids out of it. Don't drag other kids into this mess. And schools should not be enabling that. Right, let's let Nana explain, because I'm done. I'm done with this story. This is absolutely, I'm traumatized reading about it. Let kids be kids. What happened to valuing innocence, to valuing a child being allowed to be a child? What happened to that? It's as if the radical leftist lunatics don't want kids to just be kids. They want to introduce books with illicit material into schools, into elementary school. And they're justifying it and saying that if you're against it, you're for banning books. They use all this hyperbole to justify basically introducing children to illicit material. Way inappropriate for their age group. That shouldn't even be considered appropriate for public school. It's as if they don't want children to be children anymore. They don't want children to have that innocence anymore about them. This isn't even a regular comprehensive school. This is a Church of England school where parents think their kids are going to learn some Christian values, or some Christian values are going to be upheld within the school. No, it's like nowhere is safe.
Now, when I read this, I realised that the world has truly gone mad. A Church of England school allowed a 4-year-old boy, Bobby, to enrol as a girl, so basically pretend to be female because he apparently identified as one. At 4, please. Bobby became part of a friendship group of girls. His biological sex was hidden from his classmates. At some point in the 3 years that followed, the girls that hung around with Bobby twigged that Bobby has a willy and was not in fact female. He apparently kept flashing it, and according to reports, he would chastise them and warn them of a dark spirit in the toilet that sucked out souls. Some of the girls started to get constipation and urinary infections at just 7 because I suspect they were too scared to go to the loo. And one parent reported her daughter was suffering with stress-induced insomnia. And by this time, Bobby was, well, obviously bigger than all of them and boisterous, and at one point punching one of the girls in the face. Zoe told her mum about Bobby's behaviour, and Zoe's mum, who had worked at the school and knew the truth but didn't disclose it to her because, well, she was afraid of losing her job at the time. Zoe said, "I just don't get why she's being like this." That's referring to Bobby. Except Katie told me this secret in year 1 that Bobby is in fact a boy.
Absolutely horrific, because this went on for years. How is a child supposed to wrap their head around this? This went on for years. And then they find out unwittingly, because they saw Bobby's willy, that this is a boy. And you can imagine, it sounds like, this child has issues, but is it any wonder this child has issues when you're telling him that he's a girl? And you're basically encouraging the child to be deceptive. Now Bobby is growing up with some disturbed tendencies. And you know who's to blame? The parents telling the child that they're in the wrong body. Of course the child is going to grow up and have issues. And now those issues are affecting other children, and the school has allowed this.
Well, of course, her mum knew the game was up and confessed, "Sorry, yes, it is true." Zoe responded, "But lying is sinful." Exactly. And bear in mind, this is a faith school, and let's face it, Zoe, a 7-year-old, was able to call this out. They'd been lied to. Can you imagine how traumatising that must have been for the child? It's like finding out that a parent has been cheating on the other. Difficult at any age, but to learn that your parents are fallible at that age and have lied to you will probably leave you with trust issues for the rest of your life. Now, despite some of the parents flagging this issue up to the school's governor, the governor in charge of safeguarding and responsibility said, "The school would like to reassure you that actions followed are in line with the evidence given by the Department of Education alongside the guidance for Church of England schools, and that he had every confidence that the school will do their utmost to provide the other children with support required to navigate this sensitive situation in an inclusive and caring way."
The Department of Education has said that it's inappropriate for primary school children to be introduced to concepts of socially transitioning. This is a faith school, so they're teaching the kids that it's wrong to lie, right? While in the same breath, pulling off a massive deception that went on for years. That school needs to be held accountable. Everybody involved in going along with this deception needs to be held accountable. Those young girls were traumatized. That's not hyperbole. They were traumatized. Kids who have been violated experience those symptoms.
So you've messed with their heads at such a young age. For what? The children have seen sense and will not be lied to by the parents. Imagine that. A 7-year-old losing respect for their parents because they've been lied to about something as basic and clear-cut as gender. The children are not buying this claptrap, and it is affecting the mental health of otherwise healthy minds. If someone is suffering from gender dysphoria, affirming it has a collateral impact, and at just 4 years old, when this began, can you honestly look me in the eye and tell me that at this age a child is capable of making life-changing decisions such as this? Bobby's a boy, and no amount of trying to convince a child will make them believe otherwise. So what the hell are we playing at as adults?
Very well said, as usual. And that's the question. The adults are the ones enabling this. The adults are the ones lying to children, not just the gender confused child, but all the other children who that child comes into contact with, all the other children who that child befriends. And this isn't against boys. I'm sure those little girls also play with boys. It's the deception that played with the mental health of those children. It's the deception that confused those children and that traumatized them. By the time they found out, they were still only 7 years old. So I really hope the Department of Education, moving forward, makes it clear that this isn't going to be tolerated. That schools should not be playing a part in destroying the mental health of children. Schools need to be a place that are secure and safe. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.